Women's basketball did what they had to do in this stretch of the schedule where they were getting a little bit of a break competition-wise. Got 2 wins, beat Pitt, won Sunday at Wake 58-50. Alyssa Usby goes 10 for 11 from the field. She had a career-high 25 to go with her 10 rebounds. Made her first three-pointer of the season.
Yeah.
So Carolina shoots 52% from the field, but goes 11 for 25 from the free throw line, which kept the game close. But Tar Heels, in the end, get the win, which is all that matters. Carolina now 17-9 overall, 9-5 in the ACC. This week is going to be a little tougher. You've got NC State coming to Carmichael on Thursday. That'll be a big one. And then the Tar Heels go to Virginia Tech on Sunday. I think the women's basketball version of game day is going to be in Blacksburg, where I'm guessing the crowd will be hot.
Yeah.
So 2 really tough games this week for the Tar Heels.
Tar Heels got to clean up turnovers. They had, I think it was a Courtney Banghart era high 24 turnovers against Wake Forest. Is that right?
Well, they're so depleted in the backcourt, playing without several players you would expect to be handling the ball.
Yeah, neither Renee Kelly nor Paulina Paris played in either one of these games, and Paris has missed a ton of time here recently. Injuries have really hurt the women's team this year.
And you're already missing Kayla McPherson, who you figured would have the ball in her hands a lot.
Yeah.
So, but all that being said, whoever's out there can't turn it over that much, especially this week. Jones mentioned baseball. They swept Wagner. By like the 3rd inning, they had stolen 10 bases in the Sunday game.
Yes. I was out and about driving around on Sunday, and I, thanks to the Varsity Network app, had hooked up Dave and Kyle calling the game, and it was like as soon as the Tar Heels got on base, it was like, all right, they're running. I mean, it was felt like every single pitch, and there were a lot of opportunities because, as sometimes happens when you're playing a smaller school, when you get to the 3rd game, a lot of times their pitching maybe at that point is not at a Power 5 level, and there are a lot of walks.
18 walks in the Sunday game.
Is that just for the Tar Heels?
Yeah.
Adam, my math tells me that's 2 an inning, and I'm guessing the Tar Heels didn't have to bat in the bottom of the 9th.
They did not.
That's a lot of walks.
It's a lot of walks.
And I know there was at least 1 hit batter as well.
Carolina scores 46 runs altogether in the series. That's the most in a 3-game opening stretch since 1899. 1899.
First year Adam and I did the games back then.
That's right. The opener was Seton Hall.
Yeah.
Wow. So the Diamond Heels at home today against.
How much do you think you can trust the records from 1899?
I feel like things might have been different then.
Yeah.
Like, Pig Leg Granderson up at the bat for the Heels.
Is he a pirate?
Yeah.
I will say, I think Carolina should be better than Wagner. That's no offense to the Seahawks. That's probably the case.
I think they proved that.
Yeah. Seemed like a positive weekend for Carolina.
Yeah.
And I know Wagner, like the games, it was 10-3, 15-6, and then whatever the last game was. And Wagner hung around in the first couple innings in the first 2 days, again, as you would expect, and then Carolina really opened it up and then controlled. But I know they started 2 freshmen, right, on Friday and Sunday. And they have a new – we had Scott Forbes in here with us last week. I hope you listened to that interview. There's some returning very important pieces, but they've added around those pieces. It just feels like Carolina has a good team this year.
Offense will be the headliner, and that's what Coach Forbes said when he was in here with us. But Folger Boaz, for example, gets the Friday night start. First Tar Heel freshman to start the first game of the year on the mound since Ryan Snare.
Yeah.
And
that is Jefferson Boaz's brother, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The Boaz family.
Yeah.
Of course, Jay, their dad, former football player at Carolina, former punter.
So we're going to find out about a lot of these younger guys this coming week because today, again, against Elon at 4 o'clock, and then this weekend at home against ECU Friday, in Fayetteville against ECU on Saturday, and then in Greenville against ECU on Sunday. ECU is a top 15 type team. So that's a big series here, the second week of the season.
I like this is ever since Coach Forbes became the head coach, right? They've done this series, or at least the last couple years, where and now weather's gotten in the way a couple times here recently, but
as it does in February,
where one of them's in Chapel Hill, one of them's in Greenville, and then one of them's at a neutral site. Now, I have some experience with Eastern North Carolina, Adam. Fayetteville, there's going to be plenty of Pirates in Fayetteville. So hopefully that there's a great Tar Heel representation there as well.
That silent group of Tar Heels in Fayetteville needs to get out and go to the game because you're right. There could be a lot of purple.
There's going to be a lot of purple there in Fayetteville. So
there are some Tar Heels in Fayetteville.
Absolutely, there are. So we need some good Tar Heel representation.
Billy, get to the game.
It's up to you, Billy.
Interesting weekend for softball.
Yes.
So softball was in this Clearwater, Florida tournament that we told you about last week, and they were going to get to play some extraordinarily good competition. That was the plan.
Yeah.
They did play number 18 Kentucky in the first game, which we both watched.
Yes.
That was a really good game.
Came right down to the end. Kentucky wins by a run. Was it 1 or 2?
12-10. Kentucky wins it.
Carolina had runners on and an opportunity near the end, and that was a back-and-forth game the whole time. Kentucky jumped out to a big lead, but then Carolina came right back, and then the Tar Heels led something. It was very back and forth, and Carolina had a chance at the end of the game, certainly, to win it.
So then weather becomes an issue.
Big issue.
Carolina beats Central Florida 2-1. Central
That's
Florida
a good win.
Is like a fringy top 25 type team. Bailey McCachran has a complete game in the circle. Skylar Brooks goes 3 for 3 and ties the game with an RBI. And then the Tar Heels have some big-time games scheduled, Washington, Texas, and a couple other teams. But it just monsoons in Clearwater. So all those other games were rained out.
Yeah.
But I think the softball Heels might be fun to watch. And you can find out this week. They got their home opener Wednesday at 4 against UNCG.
It definitely feels like a team that is not a finished product, nor would you expect it to be in Megan Smith Lyons' first year. But a team that's going to be competitive and going to be fun to watch, probably win some games that you maybe think they shouldn't. They'll probably have a head scratcher in there too. But I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. That's what it feels like. Just in
I agree.
My very limited experience, but in watching them some this weekend, it seemed like they would be a fun team to keep an eye on.
This is nowhere close to all the things that Carolina won this past. Bob, this one's going to run all over. Sorry. Women's Lax has the home opener on Saturday, plays number 12 Florida. Big win, 19-10. Ashley Humphrey had 5 points. 11 Tar Heels had at least 1 point, and 3 Tar Heels had a hat trick.
Wow.
Alyssa Long, Caitlin Wurzberger, and Kylie Modis. Carolina closed it out in an 11-2 run.
Well, I was going to say, I caught, and that was Saturday, right? That
yes.
They played. I remember before the basketball game, I kind of saw the score, and it was still very tight. And after the basketball game, I said, "Oh, did Women's Lax win?" I know it was a tight game, and whoever I asked, I think it may have been Bob, said, "Oh yeah, they won big." So they clearly shut the door in a big way in the second half.
Tar Heels now 2-1 overall, and it's already time for ACC play. They go to Virginia on Friday at 5:00. Men's lacrosse also got a win. This one was in North Bethesda, Maryland. They beat Fairfield 19-8, scored 7 straight goals in the third quarter. Dominic Petramala, 5 goals, 2 assists. Owen Duffy, 3 goals, 4 assists.
Whoa.
10 different Tar Heels scored. Carolina now 2-0 overall. Their home opener is this coming Saturday against Johns Hopkins, perennial Lax power. That's Saturday at noon in Chapel Hill. Gymnastics, first ACC win in history. Beat Pitt on Friday night. Julia Noer had a day.
Well, so I didn't watch this live, but I watched the replay of the entire meet. And it was the best meet the Heels have had this year. From start to finish, they were really good. They were, every apparatus, they were really good. They were just really good. Julia Noer was fired. Not only was she good, she was fired up in this meet. Like every time she did something, I thought she was going to fight somebody afterwards. She was so pumped up that she had done something well. But what I really like about this, Adam, is Carolina had to go win it because Pitt performed well in this meet as well. They both went over 196 as a team. I think it's one of the 10 best scores in Carolina gymnastics history, the final score. And so they had to go get it. Like it wasn't like Pitt fell a bunch and the Tar Heels just kind of backed into it. They won this meet against a team that performed well as well. Alicia we know her as Sacramone, but she's married to Brady Quinn now, the former Notre Dame quarterback, and so her name is Alicia Quinn. She was one of the announcers on the TV broadcast for this one. And one thing that I think they talked about a lot, she and whoever the play-by-play guy was, just about some of the adversity that Carolina's had this year with injuries and some illnesses and some weird things that have happened at really bad times, and how they had talked to Coach Durrani, obviously, before the game or the match, and she was talking about how she felt like kind of quietly they were rounding into a little better form. And so you certainly saw that on Friday. That was a terrific performance.
Julia Noer, former podcast, won beam, floor, vault, and all-around. Isabel Schaefer won bars. So Carolina won basically everything.
Isabel Schaefer had a big-time performance. I think she was 9.825 or 9.875 or something, or maybe 9.92. Some really good score on bars, and she deserved it. It was a big-time performance.
Jones was right. Season-high team score for Carolina, 196.650. Carolina will need it because they go to Clemson on Friday at 7:30. Clemson's good.
Yes.
Wrestling. Got a big win at Virginia on Friday. They won 18-16. Bonus point wins from Spencer Moore and Sabino Portella. 7 straight dual wins over Virginia. Tar Heels host Duke for senior night this coming Friday. A lot of Tar Heel teams at home this weekend.
Don't worry about it. I watched a fair amount of this as well, Adam. And Tar Heels actually led 18-10 late, and Virginia won each of the last 2 individual matchups to make that score a little bit closer than I think it was for a large majority of that meet. My opinion from afar on wrestling, it seems like Carolina is in this place where I don't think the Heels are as good at this moment as Virginia Tech or State, who are both very, very good, but they seem to be better than the other ACC teams. Now, they haven't gone against Duke yet. As Adam said, that happens this weekend. So I feel like they're in a good spot, and of course, first-year head coach here too. So, I mean, there's some growth to be had, but I will be interested to see how that develops over the next year or two.
And if you heard,
because Tar Heels are recruiting well in that sport.
If you heard Lachlan McNeil on the pod a couple weeks ago, at this time in the calendar, they're also balancing some ACC battles with some Olympic battles and how do you deploy your personnel. So it's a challenging part of the calendar. Then just last thing, Jones mentioned some powerful contenders earlier in the show. Track, another school record and an ACC record in the distance medley relay up in South Bend. It was Ethan Strand, Parker Wolf, Kyle Reinheimer, and Drew Regnier. I'm sorry, Drew. On that squad. And then the ACC Indoor Championships start Thursday. So that's another school record in an indoor season that's seen quite a few of them.